special edition. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. Good crowd, Johnny Mac, for our nighttime edition of Birds 365.
First one ever.
Yeah, first one ever on a nighttime edition. So we thank you all for being here. Make sure you guys hit the like, as it's the best thing you can do to help us grow. We appreciate your guys' support all off season long, and now we officially reached training camp. So good stuff. Johnny Mac, a lot was made of, at least on Twitter and from the people who were down there. A lot of motion on offense, a lot of pre-snap motion. Everybody's excited about it. What did you see from the pre-snap motion? Was that a positive thing, or are we making a little bit too much of it?
Well, yeah. I mean, people make too much of it, but it's part of what Kellen does, and Kellen likes it.
We were bottom 5 in the league last year, John. We've talked about it a lot, so I think it's a good thing, you know.
Well, it's going to be a part of the offense. You don't have to worry about that. It's a foundational philosophy of Kellen Moore, but they won 29 out of 32 with no motion. So that's all I'll say about that. Well, I mean, look, it's about execution. And to his credit, Kellen said that himself. He talked about, what's the most important thing? And I think everybody who asked him that question wants to hear something like that, like motion and he said clean operation, because he's a good coach and he understands. But, coaches and I asked him the question in the spring, about his use of motion. And he said, look, my dad did it when he was young, and his college coach did it, and he likes it. So that's how kind of everybody morphs into what they are, and he likes it. So it's going to be a part of the offense. Is it going to be automatically successful? Well, think about all the teams that ran more motion than the Eagles that weren't as successful as the Eagles. Motion does not guarantee success. So I think this assumption that, the Eagles are going to be great because they're running more motion, I mean, that to me is silly.
No, but I think it's a good sign when you have this much talent on the offense, and you have a coordinator who comes in, and at least you see something different. You see that maybe he's going to be able to incorporate some of this talent well and do it properly. And I think that's a good sign, at least from it. I get what you're saying.
If you do it properly, and you do it and you execute it correctly. But if you're motioning for motioning's sake, it's not going to help you. No, it's not going to help you at all.
I don't know about that. I mean, it didn't look good last year down the stretch. No motion, no difference in the offense. A lot of, look, you can say it wasn't predictable last year. The whole league said it was predictable. Everybody said it was predictable. It didn't work last year down the stretch late in the season.
Nick Bosa is not the whole league.
Christian McCaffrey called out the play on the live telecast.
Christian McCaffrey can call out everybody's play on every team in the NFL.
All right, I'm just saying the results didn't work.
By the way, a former teammate of Christian McCaffrey, Luke Kuechly, could call out every play, every single play on as one of the best middle linebackers in football. Should be a Hall of Famer. Yeah, guys know plays. Guys, smart linebackers know what's being run. Execution. I know it's boring to people. Everybody knew what was coming with the Emmitt Smith Cowboys. Everybody knew. Couldn't stop it.
No, I get it. I definitely see what you're saying. No doubt about it. But I just think that motion is a good thing to have in your offense. I think it gives you the chance to create mismatches. It creates confusion on the defense. It gives them more to think about. But I get what you're saying. It doesn't matter if you don't execute. But I think overall, it's a good thing to have in the offense.
The best stretch of Eagles football in history, they didn't use motion.
Were they bottom 5 in that stretch?
Bottom 5. The best stretch in Philadelphia Eagles history. And they've been around for 91 years.
Well, on the same breath, though, the worst collapse in Eagles history also saw no motion.
So which is correct?
Well, the league may be adjusted like they do consistently in this league, where you have to adjust and get better and make changes.
Why do you have to adjust to no motion?
No, I'm saying that when they were 29 of 32 with no motion, but they also then struggled with no motion. So was it an overcorrection by the Eagles, or did the league figure out how to create a game plan to stop the Eagles offense? And now they're changing it up to answer the correction.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's more of it's a better thing when you have a bad football team and you're trying to scheme people open, which generally works in short bursts before teams adjust and shut it down.
Well,
If you don't
Kyle
have
Shanahan would disagree with that,
and,
but
and you don't have the talent for it. Well, Sean McVay is the guy, and I say this all the time when it comes to motion in the NFL, and he literally calls it the illusion of complexity. Literally calls it that. I don't call it that. He calls it that. What all he's trying to do is test the discipline of the defense. And a lot of times with young defenders, it'll work because they don't have discipline. With veteran guys who know what they're doing, it doesn't bother them. But I mean, people want to make it this cure-all. I'm just saying it ain't a cure-all. They're
no,
not
I
going to
get it.
win
I get what you're
football.
saying. You're not saying, okay, they ran motion, now they're going to be the greatest offense in the NFL. I get it. I
Yeah,
see what you're saying. Yeah.
they're not going to win football games because they run motion. And Kellen Moore would be the first to tell you that.
No,
And
but we're
that's why I
trying to
said clean
yeah.
operation, clean operation, clean operation. Don't get behind the sticks. Do all the things that are boring. And then, he's comfortable with it. It's like, Nick got into the no motion thing. I tell the story all the time because Philip Rivers didn't like it. And Philip Rivers preferred just to get his information by formational tricks. And, you know, maybe that's not fair to expect Jalen Hurts to be Philip Rivers, but he had more success doing it than Philip Rivers ever did. So you can look at it both ways, at least from a team perspective. I just think it's become this shiny bauble that people hang on to and think it's some kind of correction, where the correction is teaching the quarterback how to handle a blitz. That's what's going to win you football games.
That's
That's
fair.
what's going to win you football games.
Fair perspective. I think you're leaving out potentially some of the advantages of having that when you have an 8th ranked offense in the NFL and it lacked all that motion. You're giving yourself a chance to be better. Kenneth P in the chat, he's right. He points out Eagles had veterans at cornerback get cooked by motion, and that was in the Super Bowl. And that he's correct. Darius Slay was so far out of position, he wasn't even in a 10-yard radius of a receiver in the NFL in the Super Bowl because of motion. So I'm just saying that I think overall it's a good thing to add to an offense.
Yeah, that's Andy Reid won 2 Super Bowls on his corn dog play,
Yeah,
as he
he did.
calls it.
That goes to the point.
But but again, and when I joke about that, because I joke about it for Andy, people are talking about one play in it's a big situation. But if you run corn dog, again, what Andy calls it, if you run that 20 times a game, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah,
And
but
when you talk,
my only point is having it in your toolkit is a good thing. That's all.
and yeah, but that's what I mean. People look at it as the Chiefs did it and won the Super Bowl. Well, yeah, and Darius Slay's a veteran quarterback and he blew a coverage. There's so many things that factor into that. Number one is, well, if you're playing man, it's not going to be as big as an issue because you're not going to screw up. So you have this Vic Fangio in that, at that time, tinted defense. They were copying Vic. And I talk about it all the time, how complicated it is and how important communication is. So when you talk about Slay, there's like 3, 4 guys screwing up and not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Which factors in, which factors into it as well. But all I'm trying to say is they had tremendous success being bottom 5 in motion.
Yeah,
More success than they've ever had in the history of the Philadelphia Eagles. And the assumption is that they're going to fix this shit because they're throwing some motion in there, which Jim Schwartz calls eyewash and eye freaking candy, because that's all it is. You're trying to fool people. You're not trying to beat people.
Well, maybe that'll help the offense, John. Maybe we need to fool more people because nobody was fooled down the stretch last year. Wait, all I'm saying, you agree. Motion is not a bad thing, right?
It's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's a thing.
Okay, that's fair.
It's a thing to test the discipline of the defense. And if you have an undisciplined defense, keep running it. If these morons can't, keep up, keep running it. If they can, it's a waste of time. Now, also the quarterback part of it. In a static world, let's call the Eagles offense a static world last year. Jalen Hurts struggled to handle the blitz. In a non-static world, is he going to be better against the blitz? Potentially. But it's going to have nothing to do with the motion. It's going to have to do with Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier and Nick Sirianni and anybody else who's involved, getting him properly prepared in between game days to do what he needs to do. That will improve the Eagles offense. Because the blitz is coming because they saw what it did to him last year. And they will not let up until you prove you can deal with it.
Well, I think I understand what you're saying. That's the bottom line. I get what you're saying. I do think, back to the motion point, though, I think it could help when you have a team that wants to bring the blitz. Okay, now they have more stuff to think about. Whether it's eye candy or not, at least it's there. And I know the execution matters.
I encourage
it plays a part in being better.
That's probably on YouTube. Everybody search Luke Kuechly for old NFL Tims of him just calling out plays left and right. Knows every stinking play before they run it. And he's a Hall of Fame level player, but even when he knew every stinking play, he didn't stop every stinking play. Because if you execute it from an offensive perspective, as everyone would say that played the early 90 Cowboys, and Jimmy Johnson admits they had 3 running plays. And by the way, the Eagles, inside zone, outside zone. Go stop it.
Moving on, John, let's go